Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mountainside Podcast. Our guest for this episode is Montana native Jeremiah Wilber. He's a former Army Special Forces operator who now spends a ton of his time raising awareness about veteran suicide and helping with a multitude of foundations to reconnect veterans to nature. Jeremiah is also a high-level athlete, competing in traverse ski racing and ultra marathons. This guy truly lives a mountain lifestyle, and I thoroughly enjoyed sitting down with Jeremiah today and getting to know him as a person, and I hope you enjoy this listen. Jeremiah, welcome to the Mountainside Podcast. I appreciate you coming in. You're just coming off the mountain, right?
Yeah, I am. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah.
I guess you're still in the mountains. You were just at a higher elevation
probably
an hour ago.
I linked up with my training partner in Summit County, and we did like 12 miles today, just trying to get our boots and just kind of dial nutrition and some things in, like kind of last minute. So, awesome. Yeah.
And how was it today, man? Weather nice up there?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was cold in the morning, and then it turned to like t-shirt weather.
Dude, when the sun's
so
out,
hot,
it's like...
It was
awesome, right?
When I was driving over,
and some fresh snow, probably.
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I've never taken the road from Idaho Springs this way. You know, I've always come around on 470, and it was just funny because there was like people running in t-shirt and shorts, cycling in t-shirt and shorts, and dudes ice fishing like on the same road. You know, like it was. I was like, only in Colorado, man. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. And a lot of people can get caught up in this weather this time of year because they go out and it's like 65, it's great, and then we get a storm front that rolls in that the weatherman missed, and next thing you know, they're fucking freezing sometimes to death.
Oh, yeah,
man.
dude. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people just don't realize that the mountains create their own weather, and then how much the temperature drops as soon as that sun goes away. You know, so
especially if you hit any sort of elevation, right?
Yeah. And we have like crazy temperature swings in Colorado where it's like it can start out like 20 below in the morning, certain places in the mountains, go all the way up to like 40. You know, and that's an insane temperature swing. Yeah. And then to be caught in, you know, people, like you said, people just don't have that experience. They don't realize it, you know.
Well, shit, even in the middle of summer, like I live at about 8,000 feet, close to it, just below it, I think. No, we're not. We're 7,300, right, Jeremy?
Something like that? It depends on where you are. But
yeah.
We're, like my house is, I think I'm like 78.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're in the 70s.
So, yeah, I mean, you can drive. There's Mount Evans Wilderness that opens up in the summer, right, as soon as they plow the snow off the road. And I love to go up there and take pictures of the mountain goats, like, before sunrise. But even if I go up in the middle of the afternoon, it'll be 80 degrees here, and I'll get up there, and it'll be 40 degrees,
oh, yeah.
You know?
It's insane. Like, and if the wind's blowing, it's insane. You're
it's
like, what
totally
is going
different.
on?
Yeah. But, yeah, so for our listeners that don't know you or don't follow you, what are you training for currently?
So I'm training for the Grand Traverse backcountry ski race. It's a point-to-point race from Crested Butte to Aspen. So it's about 40 miles, give or take, depending on the route, and that's based off of, you know, snow conditions, avalanche conditions. Super cool race because it's I do ultra marathons and some other things as well, but it's the only race that I've done where the fastest dudes in the planet that go to that. So all the fastest people in North America go to this race. It's the biggest backcountry ski race in North America. You line up on the same start line and you go at the same time. So most races you're qualifying for. So if let's say you run Boston or something, you're going to have these qualifying times that put you in certain heats, certain, you know, start times. So it's just super rad that it's like everything from these, you know, kind of like dirt baggy, kind of crusty, like ski bums that turned into this like ski mountaineering racers, skimo racers, to just like I've done it before, and I just kind of conversating with people. There was like a father-daughter team, you know, like
so kind of all walks of life.
It's all walks of life, you know. People doing it for you know, with his mom or their dad or just, you know, trying to crush. So it's a big thing between like enthusiasts who like that kind of punishment of doing, you know, marathons or like ultra marathons, all the way to your professional athletes that are sponsored, getting paid to actually race in these type of races. So it's super awesome.
That's really awesome.
And no one like treats anybody any differently, which is really cool. I feel like every kind of group, every sport or everything you get into will have these subsets of like elitists. And it's kind of funny, and it's just every sport, whether it's like cowboying and horsemanship or, hunting. Like everyone has these subsets of like these elitists that are always like, you can go dive down rabbit holes on blogs and forums and blah, 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 right? But it is one of these races where they may have that in the kind of the background, but at the race and at the event, no one acts like that. Like everyone is just from the professional athlete who's getting paid money to be there to the guy who's just doing it with like his wife just
for his own personal goals.
For his own goals. No one treats anybody different. They're all like stoked that you're there. Super cool environment.
That is really cool environment, man. I love it when there's that team aspect where competitors are actually
for
helping
sure.
others and stuff
really
like
cool.
that. And that's all that I've always felt about jiu-jitsu, and I know you're into that too, but we'll dive down that path here in a minute. But why are you doing this race? Are you doing it for a certain reason, or is
I forgot to mention that. Yeah. So the Grand Traverse, I'm using it as a fundraiser, and they have fundraiser teams that do it every year. So I think, depending on, I think there's like 50 teams they allow to enter as fundraiser teams. So this is my third year doing it, and every year I've picked a veteran nonprofit to race for and raise money for. This year I'm doing it for Heroes and Horses. It's kind of a how would I go down the whole of like how I picked it? I'm originally from Ennis, Montana. The guys from Heroes and Horses, they're from that same area. They actually just got a new facility about 10 miles from where I was raised at. I know all those guys through mutual friends, and then just kind of looking for sharing the love with the nonprofits that I do the race for. I talked to one of my buddies, my really good buddy in Montana. I was like, hey, what do you think? Because he's definitely connected to the community as well. And he was like, I was like, hey, just tell me about, Here's Horses. And he was like, you know what? I know the dudes, great dudes. I met him at the rodeo. And then my buddy Willie was like, hey, why don't you talk to one of the guys who went through the program? So I reached out. He had a guy's number. He was like a veteran that lived in Virginia or something. And I just wanted to talk to him, and it was just touching, like how it changed his life. And it's kind of hard. Like, I don't want to bash any nonprofits at all, because I think a lot of nonprofits are doing great things. But at the same time, there is kind of these, like, I would say like clubs, if you will, where guys are like, they start a nonprofit so they could do something fun with their friends. And a lot of times in the veteran community, you see that. And I'm not saying that's not good. That doesn't help people at all. But I just want to see where the money goes. I want to see, like, is it really changing dudes?
I think anybody should do their homework on a nonprofit before they get involved, because there's a ton of them out there that are, I hate to say it this way, there might be a percentage that's going to what you think it is, but really it's not the case. And we all kind of know that. And if you're not, you should be looking into it. So
absolutely. And the nonprofits that I've tied myself with, the first year I did it for Special Forces Foundation, which is really cool. We raised like $17,000. And the night of the race, we actually had some guys. They were in 2nd Battalion, 10th Group, Sister Battalion, and I was still active at the time, who got hit that same night. Ended up getting a medevac out to Germany.
Oh, shit.
They used the money we raised to fly his family, his wife and kids, from Hawaii to Germany to be able to see their dad and their husband.
That's so cool.
It was super awesome to be like, to have that kind of feeling, to sit, to see exactly where the money went. Like the founder, the guy who runs it, was literally like, here's the dollar amount that you raise. Here's the, it was like 14,000 or something that they were able to spend, to get tickets. And
super great foundation. We're hoping to get the founder on. And here
he's I don't want to steal anything from him. Yeah. He's a great dude. I think he's close to retirement, if not there. And then last year I did it for the Green Beret Foundation, another great foundation. You can see, exactly where the money goes. They're sending guys to get all kinds of treatments. I just had one of my best friends. He's out to see me for like 2 weeks. He was in up in Idaho getting a hyperbaric chamber, and the Green Beret Foundation paid for everything for it. So, I mean, I just like to see. I want to see where the money goes, and it doesn't need to be a big foundation, that I like, will help out or
sometimes those medium-sized ones or the smaller ones are even better, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, I just wanted to make sure that because I've seen it in the veteran space, there are, and I don't want to be able to take this wrong. Like, I'm not saying if you start a foundation to ride dirt bikes with your buddies, that's not a good cause and a good foundation, and you believe in that. You know, if you're a dirt bike enthusiast, you're going to be like, hey, it helps me, mental clarity. You have tunnel vision on what it does for you. So is it a nonprofit that's helping people, or is it a nonprofit that pays for you and your buddies to go do fun shit together? You know, so I think that's where the slippery slope is. And then as you look into, you know, in the civilian sector, which I don't know a ton about, but it's like you said, like, let's say it's, you know, helping kids. Like, let's take inner city kids from Denver and teach them to ski. Okay, that's awesome. Like, I'd be a part of that. But if you look at foundations that are doing things like that, if they don't have their money right, if I can't go directly and look at all these reports and see what's going on, I want to see dollar amounts that are.
You want to see dollars going in and dollars spent. Right?
Exactly.
It's pretty simple. Exactly. And with a nonprofit, you should have public access to all of that.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If not, don't get involved with
that. And I think, like, with the times of today, it's like, I also don't want to be attached to something that's like, if you put your name behind it and you're fundraising for it and you're doing that, it's like, you know, I want to be someone who's neutral, like, politically. Like, I don't want to go to your Instagram page and see you have, like, a bunch of memes up right now about Dr. Seuss.
Exactly.
Like, I agree with a lot of things, but I don't want to be political in that aspect. I'm open for debate, and I think that social media is the wrong place to debate things. So, being that said, there is a lot of foundations that I think sometimes lean towards that a little bit, and it can kind of, like, I would say, almost like put you, you know, align, like, it looks like you're aligned with somebody that you're kind of like, look, I don't agree with all their bullshit. Especially right now, the
state that the country's in.
Yeah, it's super weird.
It's fucking really weird.
And I feel like most Americans are right in the middle, and they lean a little left, a little right on certain social issues.
That's exactly where I'm at.
Most people,
you just
like,
explaining me.
Yeah, yeah, that's how I am. Yeah. But I'm like, most people, if they just talk to each other, you're probably like, oh, okay, like, we're.
It's almost like the media. Well, the media does blow everything out of proportion. Sure. I feel like they're kind of stoking the fire a lot of times.
They just need clickbait.
Yeah.
You know, what's going to get us clicks?
Well, it's just like the, you know, breaking news all the time. You know, like when I was a kid, it was one channel that you watched and the news was on for an hour. Now you can go watch, like, God, I don't even know how many news channels there are. And they're based around your political values. And, like, it's just a fucking mess, dude. Everybody needs a quick slap in the face, in my opinion, just a little bit, just like, hey, wake up, like, here, or maybe not a slap in the face, but a water bucket, right?
No, I agree. And this one thing I love so much about listening to podcasts and listening to people is because when you watch the media, whether it's social media or a news network, it's like two people arguing at each other for 30 seconds, and they're just trying to holler, like, shout over each other, get their point across, and it's like, that's not a true debate or actual facts or listening to the other side. So that's why I think, like, you know, most Americans, it's easy to echo chamber yourself and not have friends or people you connect with,
or to only see what you want now, because everything's at the touch of a finger, right?
So that's why I think, like, just longer conversation, like, everything's nuanced. Like, you could spend hours on one, you know, whatever the hottest topic it is, whether it's Second Amendment, First Amendment, you know, like, whatever it is, like, it's hours of discussion. It's not a quick, like, 30 seconds on TV.
I couldn't agree with you more, 100%, man. You know, we were just talking about, we went down this serious rabbit hole, which is super cool because I agree with everything that you just said, man. But I want to know a little bit more about your childhood. You mentioned you grew up in Montana. Were you a skier? I mean, when you grow up in Montana, especially at the age that we are, Montana was a lot different. I think you almost had to live, not a ranch lifestyle, but an outdoor lifestyle, man, to live there and enjoy it. You kind of have to enjoy the outdoors and the mountains.
So my mother is Muscalero Apache by blood, and she's adopted Assiniboine. So, and then my dad, just white man, cowboy, mountain man, you know, just a badass mountain man. So it was kind of cool just for me growing up. I grew up, like, super poor, like, you know, and I didn't really notice it, but my dad was cowboying, you know, punching cows, and trying to work through worked through nursing school kind of at the same time. And this is like very early childhood. This is probably from, as a baby to, when did he actually stop working on the ranch? Probably about 4 or 5, he got a job and became a nurse. And then my mom, same thing, working the ranch, kind of oddball jobs in and out. And this is in Ennis, Montana, it's about 50 miles west of northwest of the park. So
Okay.
if you've ever driven
Glacier?
no, Yellowstone.
Oh, Yellowstone.
Yeah. So
Okay,
if you
cool.
ever drove through Yellowstone, when you leave West Yellowstone and head towards like Bozeman, a lot of time when you're going through the park, you're going to be following the Madison River that's going west.
Fucking awesome
So,
spot,
dude, yeah. And so it's like you basically just keep following the Madison River to Ennis. That's the Madison River Valley.
Okay.
And
So you grew up around elk running around.
oh man, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even my wife and I, she hadn't been up there ever, and we drove through this summer, and I told her, I was like, when we leave the park, I was like, you're not gonna know that we left the park other than there's a gate that's telling you left the park. And you just go through like where I grew up, and it's insane. Like every time I go back home, it's like, wow, man, it's so beautiful.
I've done some
like, such a
photography
blessing.
trips up there and stuff because I dibble dabble in that. I love to shoot wildlife
Yeah.
just as like a personal hobby. And man, that's a whole nother level of country up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I,
Yeah. Sorry. Back to your
no
shop.
worries. No. So I moved around Montana a little bit when I was, I don't really remember how old I was. My dad got a job in Great Falls. So we actually lived in like a regular kind of subdivision, Great Falls, Montana area. Prior to that, I lived in a cabin with, my mom and dad with like, there was barely running water and electricity. It was like, even a lot of times the water, it was well water. So we had to like pump it first, hand pump the pump to get the water to come in. So, I mean, looking back, it was just awesome. I didn't know, eating rice and beans every day. And like, unless it's meat, like we had meat, it was like meat my dad shot.
The last podcast I just did, well, I had kind of a mutual thing. I didn't grow up with a whole lot of money, and neither did the guest, Andy. Mutual friends of ours.
Yeah.
And, man, it was crazy because we just connected on that whole level that I never knew about him. And it's like when you grow up with nothing like that, it's really not that bad. You just don't know any better, right? Like,
yeah. I think like not to like kind of fast forward this conversation, but I think also just life in general. As I fast forward through my life through being special forces, it's like you realize how much life actually means versus all the tangible things don't mean anything. And it was like all those times with my dad, my brothers, my sister, like just the family time and just being out in the mountains, my grandparents, like all that is what you cherish. And I think it's even now, like if I had like $100 in my pocket and I lost it, I'd be like, whatever. Like,
right.
I mean, I don't know. It sucks, but it's not like, to me,
your time is almost more valuable than you going back and looking for it, right?
Yeah,
so maybe you're missing your kid's soccer game or whatever it is.
Right.
Maybe you're trying to crush a personal record. Like,
yeah. I just think
I don't know. I don't think anybody should throw away money either.
No. I just think it kind of like when you come from very humble beginnings, I think you appreciate the important things in life way more than if you and I don't know. I'm not trying to speak for anybody who was well off or well to do, because there's great people in the same right, But anyway, we just very simple life, I actually didn't ski, just talking about skiing.
Yeah.
I did a lot of fishing. I absolutely hate fishing. People always ask me, like, oh, God, I hate fishing.
You're like the first person I've met that hates it.
I can't stand
Dude, I hate fishing.
Oh man. I mean, I have friends that are like professional anglers,
Yeah.
And I get it. My grandfather loved to fish. Like he loved to fish. I love being outside. I love hiking into a cool lake, or whatever. Like I love that, but I don't like fishing, and I hate seafood. So only fish I like to eat are like freshwater fish from a lake or a river in the mountains. But 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 growing up in Montana and in this particular, it's like the fly fishing capital of the world, you know.
Right.
So it's just like hunting and fishing, just kind of like one rolls in, one rolls out, from the seasons. But yeah, and then so I don't like fishing. I didn't ski. I did a lot of like hiking, hunting. I was the kid where it was just like my mom literally, like, especially my mom being Indian, like my mom had a saying when we were kids. She would always say, "Today's a good day to die," and that's an old warrior saying, and that basically just means that I'm accepting death. I'm not scared of it because I'm right with God. I'm right with my family. I've righted all my wrongs, if you will. I'm living an honorable life. And when I do die, I'm going to bring the fight to the enemy. I'm going to fight as hard as I can. I'm going to kill a bunch of bad dudes. And if I go out, I go out.
And I think part of
and
that,
I embrace that.
Rad saying, man. And I think part of that, and especially from an operators community or special forces community like that, a lot of you guys have that same mentality. And I've been trying to figure it out because I think it's just so rad. But part of that is being a good person up to that point, right? You never know when that's going to come.
I agree.
So just know that you're fucking good in God's eyes or Allah's eyes or whatever religion you believe.
Yeah. And I think it was like kind of easy for us to embrace as kids and understand that because, growing up in Montana and being in that environment, you're used to seeing guys getting hurt, like cowboying is super dangerous. Just being in the mountains in general,
Grizzlies.
Grizz country. I mean, there's always something that, brings you not necessarily close to death, but like, it's right there. You can see it, you're accepting it even as a kid. And I think also being, my parents being Christians and being raised in that manner, it was like, we just embraced it more than we were like scared of it or, made it strange for our family. So my mom would always say, today's a good day to die, even when we went to school or went out to play. But it's funny because like my mom is the lady who literally would like pack us some snacks in a bag. I'd take my rifle and the dog. She's like, take the dog with you, like be home whenever, like, I don't know, like when the sun comes down, I guess. So it's like, and I had like, like moccasins my grandmother made me, like buckskins. Like I always thought I was like this half breed, like mountain man, I always was. We didn't have a TV growing up. I didn't think I have a TV till I was in like 7th grade or so. But my mom would just read us books, and it was always like all these like mountain man books or books, written from. I
gotta ask this question. Don't get offended, but no. Jeremiah Johnson is the greatest fucking mountain man movie ever. Dude.
That's where I got my name, actually. Yeah. So my mom and dad named me after Jeremiah Johnson, and all my brothers and my sister were all biblical names, so it was like kind of easy, kind of fitting.
Yeah, it fits right in.
Yeah, and I try to, I guess like looking back on my life so far, it's like I guess I try to like be like the real version of Jeremiah Johnson.
That's cool though, man.
Yeah, and then
you could be named Paul or something.
I know.
No offense to all you Pauls out there,
but Chad, right? I would have sweet hair if my name was Chad. I wouldn't have to buzz my hair.
Right.
So yeah, just that, and then when I was, I want to say I was like 12 or 13, we moved to Las Vegas. So I had this kind of
really? Yeah, what a culture!
I know, right?
Holy
crazy.
Shit.
So I had this like I would say very kind of cowboy culture, outdoor culture.
Which Vegas is actually not a bad place if you're an outdoors person.
No, it's not.
Like
it's great.
Reno's there, Tahoe's close.
I mean, just outside of Vegas
Utah,
is
Red Rocks. I mean, all that.
Some of the best climbing in the world. Like if you're a climber, like it's Red Rocks. So the thing that was different for me was, and I don't want to make like race an issue at all or like go down this rabbit hole, but growing up in Montana, my mom being Native, my dad being white, there was some issues there when we went to the reservation. There was a lot of things like my dad is now like he's like a suit. Like he literally goes to powwow, sets up teepees. He's the only white dude that can do whatever. Like no one messes with him. They know Rick. They know my dad. He's an Indian. So it's like we had some of that as a kid, and then I went to regular schools. I was around, a bunch of white kids, and they would do, crappy stuff. And it was just kind of weird. Like, I didn't really know what was going on. We moved to Vegas, and we literally moved to, like we live on the east side of Las Vegas. So if we go there now, it's ghetto as shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't as ghetto, but it was a very melting pot area, but predominantly like black and Hispanic, I would say. And then I went to schools. I went to schools in the ghetto where I was like the only kid who wasn't black. But at the same time, I think that shaped me a lot because I came from this like warrior culture in Montana, and it was like I was always fighting. Like, I mean, I think I was literally fighting since I can remember. I fought everyone. When I go home to Montana to this day, there's grown ass men that are like, that dude was nuts as a kid. It was like and they're like, oh yeah, they're like, yeah, of course he became a Green Beret. Like, dude was a fucking psychopath. But I just was I was never scared of anybody. My dad raised me like I said, like that cowboy style of culture where it was like, you know, you defend your mom, you respect women, you do this, but if anybody does anything to you, like, you know,
stand up for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So I go, you know, fast forward to Vegas. I'm in this like I said, it's pretty ghetto where I'm at, but it definitely helped shape me because it helped me. It taught me a lot about just character, more humble beginnings, you know, people who didn't have a lot.
To fast forward a little bit too, the military is a lot like that, right? Because you guys are all wearing the same suit, but you can be from all over the world sometimes, right? Because you're fighting with other forces too. It's not just the U.S. military.
For sure. I mean, so you know, I'll go into this in one second, but so it's like I go to Vegas, you know, go to high school, all the crap. And I knew when I was like 3 years old, I was going to go in the Army. You know, my dad would like send me cadences, and like he'd always talk about, like, he'd show me how to fight, you know. We'd like literally teach me stuff out of the Ranger Handbook, and he'd always say like Airborne Ranger.
Is he ex-military?
Like, yeah, he was, yeah. So he'd always kind of like, you know, like tout it up, you know, and it's something I knew I was going to do. And then, my girlfriend at the time, I was senior in high school. She got pregnant, so I was like, "Yeah, I got to go in the Army. You know, I got to take care of my kid." So, I joined the Army, and looking back on it, you know, I wish I could like take a different path, but I mean, God has a plan. You know, it's like there's a path, and it happens for a reason. So, joined the Army. I initially joined the National Guard. So my plan was I was going to become a pilot. My dad at this time, we had moved to Vegas, so my dad could be a flight nurse. So my dad was like the head flight nurse for Mercier, just absolutely crushing it. And all of the pilots were all former special operations, or I wouldn't say special operations, but this is kind of before some of the 160th time frame. They were all like Vietnam. They're all in books like LZ X-Ray. They're all these like just legendary pilots from Vietnam era. And so I, you know, talking to them, and I was going to do they had a program like high school to flight school program. So I was going to do that. And then the whole, like, my girlfriend got pregnant, you know, all this other stuff happened. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go in the National Guard and do college. 'Cause my dad became an officer after he graduated college. So he was still in the National Guard at this time. The only units they had like a tanker unit and an MP unit. My dad was like, everything on a tank weighs 300 pounds, bro. Like, you don't want to be on a tank. That's stupid. So I was like, all right, I'll be an MP. Like, yeah, I can be a cop. You know, I was kind of like, well, yeah, mate. You know, I think when you're in high school too, it's like you have so many, like, it's easy to have ties to where your family is or where you are. So I was looking at like, yeah, I could do that. Maybe I'll, you know, go to school. I'll work for Metro, whatever. So anyway, I go to basic training, and I think oftentimes you don't realize, unless you didn't have great parents, but you don't realize how awesome your mom and dad are until you're older. So I think, like, sometimes looking back,
it comes full circle, right?
Yeah,
especially when you have kids too. It's like, shit.
Oh, for sure. So I was
thanks,
like,
Mom. Thanks, Dad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, like, looking back on it, like, my dad's one of my heroes. But when you're a teenager, it doesn't seem that way because you're kind of like butting heads and this alpha male type stuff going on. You know, it's a lot going on there. So I go to basic, and I basically have this like awesome drill sergeant that basically just like makes me want to be in the Army. So I'm just like, this is so awesome. He's such a great leader. This is what I want to do. So I graduated basic training. I had like a 2-week break, the same amount of break someone would do, like what they call hometown recruiting. And then from there, I basically like transfer from the National Guard to the regular Army. And then This is January 2000. So
and they just let you do that? It's something where you can
they basically
just, like decide like, hey, I want the next step, or
I guess it's probably easier for me because I was like just graduated basic. I wasn't like I didn't owe the state of Nevada anything. It wasn't like I was a certain rank or anything. It was super easy, So I did that, and I ended up I spent almost 10 years as an MP, and as an MP I did everything from I started out doing like SRT, which is like the SWAT team. I was just kind of like the high speed kid, like dudes threw stuff at. They're like, oh, he can run fast, he can shoot good, like go do this, go try that.
So above average as an MP is what you're saying,
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I like if I'm being cocky, it's like I was crushing those dudes. But if I'm being
police
normal,
officers become SWAT, right?
Right.
So it's the more tactical type
for sure
mentality.
I think like if I was to talk to my peers that knew me, and from 2001, 2002, something like that, they would be like, oh man, that dude's such a stud. Like they would never look at my career now and think that I could never make that. They would always probably been like, oh, I knew that dude was going to do that.
Right.
For me, it was like, I always underestimated myself. Like if I saw, like if the like 21-year-old Jeremiah saw the 1-year-old Jeremiah, I would be like, there's no way that's not me. Like there's no way I'm going to be a triple stack Green Beret and third Special Forces group. Like there's no way.
And I'm just doing some math in my head right now. This has got to be pre 9/11, right? Because you did 20 years.
Yeah, I did
plus?
20. So my actual date, my full dates in the Army, minus the basic training, kind of National Guard piece, I would go active duty January 3rd of 2000.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. Yeah. My last day of the Army was January 31st, 2020. So that was full 20 years. So I mean, I deployed like right after September 11th. I deployed to.
Was that? I mean, it was a shock to the nation in general, but you
absolutely.
being in, was it like, holy shit? Now I know what I'm doing, or is it?
No, I think like it's kind of a crazy day. I just got done with PT. I was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. It was an open post at the time. You could just drive right on. There was nothing. We got done with PT and literally changing, me and my roommate, and we're watching the news, and we watch it happen live. And it was just like, holy shit. So then like my squad leader, he comes running upstairs. We lived in a barracks, and he's like, hey, we're locking down base. You guys are going to be on the night shift. I was a team leader at the time. I lived with another corporal team leader. So me and his name's Donovan. Me and Donovan were like, well, shit, I guess we can get stuff spun up. So, long story long, it's like, getting everything ready, trying to get the first squad out the door that's going to start locking down stuff. Come midnight, I'm, fast forward, 12 hours or whatever it is, I am in charge of the biggest gate on Fort Hood, Texas as a corporal. They drop off a squad of 19 Delta Cav Scouts with me, and some, E6 is like, hey, my name's Ryan, and we're still good buddies to this day. I met him on the gate September 11th, and he actually is getting ready to retire as a sergeant major. He just kind of walks up to me, he's like, shakes my hand, he's like, hey man, I'm I forget his last name, but he like whatever, and we're like, all right, we've got to get this, lock it down, blah blah. And I was in charge of that gate. Me and his guys and my two guys, we're on that gate for almost 72 hours straight.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was bad. Like there was people in line in traffic, like it was so bad that people were, it's hot in Texas.
Yeah.
September. People were just like giving us Gatorades and coming up, and they're like, yeah, I've been in line 6 hours. We had to search every single car to come in. And at this time, I'm kind of cut off from the news, like this is pre-cell phone, pre-anything. So all the news and the data that I'm getting, any touch points on this is literally coming from people coming through the gate. So if you're driving through the gate trying to get to work, or you got to go, you live on base or whatever, you're like, oh, we heard it was Afghanistan, we heard it was this, or blah. And I'm like, okay, like, people are like, we're going to war, and I'm like, okay, dude, I don't know shit that's going on.
Open your trunk.
Yeah, exactly. No one's telling us shit. It's not like they're coming down and like telling us anything. So yeah, kind of crazy. And then in October of 2001, so about a month and a half later, I deployed with the SRT, basically doing assisting the Marines and the SEALs hitting boats on the Med. So they were kind of taking down some boats on the Med. a lot of people don't know that there was a lot of things funded legally. So we were able to use basically kind of like the U.S. Customs route, trade agreements, things like that. They're all way above me at this time. I don't know shit about it. It's basically just kind of like it's in the briefing, right? Like, okay, cool. So that's
what was that experience like? Did you have a good experience with the SEALs and the Marines and stuff like?
Yeah, collectively, everybody was cool. I didn't really have a lot of interactions with the SEALs itself, with the operators. I was kind of like outer cordon, their support, so they're clearing through the boat, and then we would move up and hold a position or take, if they were pucking people, it's called EPWs at the time, wasn't even pucks. So if they had somebody, we'd zip tie them and, sandbag their head, earmuffs, all that kind of crap, and then bring them back. So we were just basically kind of moving. So I didn't really have a ton of interaction with the team guys.
Just kind of moving behind them, I guess.
Moving behind them, yeah. And then they would either fly out on a helicopter, and then a lot of times we were in these, and the Marines had, and this is like, I don't know that much about the Navy, but sure. I think it was pre, like the Swick boat operator type dudes. And I don't know, they had like badass boats that we were on, big machine guns all over them and stuff, and they were super awesome. But the Marines were actually facilitating that. And then we'd have like one rescue swimmer on the boat, and then like some rescue swimmers in the water. But I didn't do a ton. It wasn't like as badass as it sounds. I'm sure if like there was an old SEAL that was there, he would like tell cool stories or something on it. And we didn't do anything cool really. I was like, other than riding on a badass boat in the dark, and things like that.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it was cool. And I got to stay. And then
you've deployed how many times since then?
Oh wow, a lot, like 6, 7, something like that. Or maybe more. So then that was my first deployment, and it was it gave me a lot of experience to draw on, I think, leadership experience, because there was times in there where it was like, I remember standing in line to get inside a tent that had this like raggedy phone that you would just pick up, and an operator would answer. And
like
it would
the old school switchboard,
it was literally just a field phone. You pick it up, and then finally, like it would start ringing, and someone would say hello, and it would be this random operator at a base, and he's usually like an Air Force base, and they'd answer and say, "Hey, MacDill Air Force Base, PFC, whoever," and you're like, "Hey, I'm Corporal Wilber. I'm trying to call blah blah blah. Can you patch me in?" So that's how you did, and you only had like 2 minutes on the phone, because it was like basically training style. There's basically it's like, "Hi mom, I'm good, everything's fine," So I think this was before the internet, before all these things. So just kind of having that experience of like my family being such a warrior family, it didn't matter that I didn't talk to them for 6 months at a time, or
they knew what you were doing,
right? Yeah. And then fast forwarding that into Iraq, being a squad leader and things like that, like getting on the internet once a week wasn't a big deal, making a phone call. I basically was like 05 to 06 as a squad leader in Iraq. I would email once a month or email once a week and phone call maybe once a month. So it wasn't like, but I think that was kind of like the beginning of some of the like guys were on MySpace, there was some of that going on.
That's some gangster shit now.
Yeah, I know.
It's for the old dudes. Yeah.
So, so I spent almost, it was like 8 years as an MP. I did a trip from 05 to 06 as a squad leader as an MP. And then when I got back from that, I always wanted to be a drill sergeant. So, I put in my packet, got selected to be a drill sergeant, and that was kind of like the highlight of my career, I think. Like people always ask me so many questions about being a Green Beret, or what do I got to do to train for this, or what was Ranger School, or what was Cyber, all these questions of all the hard things I've done. But being an MP being a drill sergeant was the most humbling and just, I would say, like, rewarding time I had in my military career. And the reason why was, when I was at drill sergeant school, still one of my best friends to this day was, met him there. He was a drill sergeant leader. And it's basically like the drill sergeant for the drill sergeants. When you go to drill sergeant school, you basically go to basic training all over again. And we had this briefing in the auditorium, and he was talking, and all these things are always negative. It's like, don't fuck the privates, don't take their money, don't hit them. It's like, that's all they tell you nonstop. It's like every class is like, don't have sex with them, don't hit them, don't take their money, because dudes are going to jail for this, like guys are legit messing up. So very rarely do you have these like positive moments. And he gets up on stage, he's like, takes off his hat, and he's like, all right, guys, listen up. He's like, and this is before Instagram. This is before you could be a normal dude and have 30,000 followers because you take cool pictures, right?
Sure.
This is so you're not going to influence anybody at this point in your life at this time in technology.
There was no social influence.
There was no social influence. So he basically says, this is your one time in life where you can influence hundreds or thousands of people. So no one in this room is going to be a rock star. He's like, you guys have made it. Like, no one here is going to go off and become famous. You're not going to be a rock star. You're not going to be influencing people. This is your time to make your imprint on young soldiers and influence people, to make civilians into soldiers. And I took that to heart, and I just thought about it and was like, you know what?
That's an awesome perspective, man.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it that way.
And it's just like, and even to this day, like on social media, it's like dudes hit me up like, oh, you're my drill sergeant or whatever, and I hope, that there's some kids out there that I influence in a positive light. It's hard, because I think when I look back on life and I look at that time period, I mean, I'm 26 to 28 years old doing this, and that's young, I think a lot of times we look at veterans and we wonder why we have so many issues, whether it's mental health issues, all these things. And it's like, you have asked, like when I was a squad leader in Iraq, I was 25 years old. The kid who rode in the gun of my truck, his best friend got his head blown off, lives with him in the exact same hooch, lives with him back in the barracks at Fort Hood. And that same day, what we have to do? Get in the truck, roll out, and fucking go patrol. So to me, that's leadership. Like, how do I get this kid to adopt a warrior spirit, not to the point where he's scared of death and he's mourning his friend, but to the point where it's like, let's go fucking kill dudes. Let's get payback for your fucking friend. So when Joseph Graves died, it's like, let's wear his dog tags, take something out of his room, put it in your pocket, do something to motivate yourself to not be scared, but to be fucking ferocious and be a fucking murderer and kill anybody that comes around us that does anything bad to us. And that's what you have to teach these kids. So think of that, and it's like, let's say he gets out of the army, like that kid's like 21 years old, he gets out of the army and he's had that experience in his life. So it's like, we're asking very, very young, immature people to be leaders. I'm 27 years old. Like, what 27-year-old should be in charge of people and should be doing that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no company and like, that's very rare that there's these leadership qualities. And this is where.
And do they train you for any sort of situation like that? Like, hey, this is how you get your team moving if something catastrophic happens.
No, I mean, you run through contingencies and you'll do battle drills and things like that. But when it comes to
it's more mental, from a physical standpoint.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the mental side of it, you're not necessarily, you don't really. They don't teach you anything like that.
And I mean, now that you're recently out of the military, I think that there's a big gap to fill there, right? Because you were in such a I don't want to say this the wrong way. You were in a rock and roll operator, let's go, kill bad dudes, let's get them, that sort of mentality, right?
Yeah.
You have all this responsibility. You have the baddest ass kit probably that you can do to go achieve your job, whatever it was. Then you get out as a civilian, and it's just like all of a sudden you're worth. I mean, you still have those experiences, right? And you still have, I'm sure, the pride of being a soldier at that point. But then all of a sudden it's just like you're kind of just dumped on the street to go like, hey, go find a job or go find this, with really not a whole lot of guidance of like.
Yeah, I think.
How do you go from being that extreme high to?
I think,
especially for a special operator.
I know we're kind of like all over the place in the story, but I'll hit on this though.
Okay.
So I look at like for me, I didn't have social media until I retired. I started social media because I'm doing these fundraiser races, and I need to get the word out. And how do I get more donations, basically, like to help me with these causes. And then slowly, just by being myself, I don't have a ton of followers, you know, and I'm literally talking like less than 1,000 followers. I had people hitting me up, and it was like, people were like, dude, you motivate me, this and that. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool because I'm just being myself, and I'm in such an amazing headspace after retiring, doing 20 years in the military, doing the things I did. And I want to share that with guys. And not to like go down another story, but it's like, to me, I look at everything holistically. It's like, especially if you're, I guess I'm using the wrong word. I'm trying to use big words. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I look at,
Good. I do it all the time, dude.
When I say holistically, I mean like the whole piece of the pie, like the whole operation here. What makes you successful in life?
And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this when I was asking you that is, you know, you got out, you found something right away. You're big into hunting.
Yeah.
You take guys hunting. You're ski racing, you're ultra marathon, like you do all this stuff, right?
I think especially as special operations goes, when you look across the board at special operations and the guys, former guys, you know, we should be the leaders in everything we do. Like when it comes to business, you know, like we should be innovators and leaders. And when it comes to, you know, like plant medicine, whether it's psychedelics or not being scared to talk about marijuana, all these things that other people are scared to talk about or scared to do, we should be the leaders in the forefronts in that, because that's what we do. We're not scared of anything. So it's like, how do I continue to share that mission and show that to guys? So for me, it's like I work. You have to work out. You have to exercise. You know, outdoor therapy, nature is so big, and there's a huge. You can dive down that rabbit hole with just society in general. Like we come from nature, our bodies crave it. We need to be in nature. And then, you know, your diet, your food, the water you're drinking, like everything ties into it. So like for me, CBD, marijuana, I'm 100% disabled. You know, most of that's brain injuries, and it's like CBD and marijuana have changed my life. I'm not on any medication. I don't take one pill.
Same way,
I don't take one pill, man. So it's like I'm prescribed over 22 medications from the VA.
Wait a minute, 22?
Yeah. I don't take any.
From the VA.
Yep.
And what are those medications
I mean,
for?
everything from gabapentin to, you know, oxy to, I mean, you name it, man. I have it. Most of it's
really?
from.
So it's for mental and pain.
So I don't have.
I would guess, yeah.
I never was prescribed any mental medications. I'm not saying I don't have PTSD or some kind of PTS, because I think the things you see in life stick with you. I think the way my mother raised me and my father raised me made some of those things, I would say, like less sharp. You know, it's blunt. It didn't affect me as much. But the demons are real, you know, for a lot of guys. And I think for me, it's like I look at all these medications, and it changes the chemical makeup of your brain. So we want to know why guys are killing themselves so much, or why veteran suicide rate's so high. And it's like, well, we just stick a Band-Aid on it and we give dudes medications that numb
it's crazy
everything.
If you go actually look at
like,
those statistics.
oh, yeah.
And when you actually hit me up originally, that's the first thing I did, because that was something that you hit me up about coming on here. And I actually went and looked at them, and I was blown away, especially not only when it goes from civilian to military or former military or first responders.
Special operations, man.
And then operations is like a whole nother level, like by like 3 times.
Yeah. So like, I think you have to have all these things in place. You have to have a solid network and positive environments around you at all times. That solid network could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your dog. I mean, there's a bunch of things that could provide that for you. But the one thing for me, it's just like, what do I show dudes? So I think you always have to do hard shit. So you have to train your body, especially for special operations guys. Your body may have limitations through injuries that you sustained, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't do shit. Like a blind dude just climbed Everest. So like, I don't want to hear your shit. Like there's no excuses. So especially if you're an operator, like, hey man, so here's the side of it. Like, who gives a fuck? Cowboy up, get your shit together, and let's fucking crush some shit. Let's go hunting. Let's go run. Let's go whatever your passion or your adventure is. Like, pick adventures and chase those.
Because it's so easy, man. You can really do one or the other. There's really no middle ground. You either go into like a deep depression on your couch and watch fucking Oprah at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Or you get out and you.
Yeah, and we're talking about, especially when you talk about special operations guys, we're talking about guys who operated, rock stars, operated at such a high level. Even if you're just a middle of the road team guy, it's like you still operate at a high level. You jumped that airplane, shotguns, deployed, like you did so much cool shit. And then when that ends, like no one gives a fuck. Like when I walk down the street, no one's like, that dude's, it's not like I'm in my uniform with a green beret on and dudes are like, oh shit, that's a green beret. Like no one fucking cares what you did. And that's the thing about leadership. And I learned this going back as a drill sergeant. It was like the coolest thing, and this is why I always revert things back in my career about being a drill sergeant, was because you're cycling these soldiers through, every 9 weeks. So this is basic, or we had them for 19 weeks if they were training to be MPs. So everything you do, if you did something in your first cycle, let's say your first cycle, you're the drill sergeant who's got camo on his face, you're low con through the obstacle course, you're just having a blast. Like the soldiers see you and they're like, fuck yeah, this is my drill sergeant, he's a badass. And they want to be like you. And then you fast forward like 3 cycles later and it's pouring rain. You're standing there in a Gore-Tex jacket. They don't even know what that jacket is because they've never seen it. They've never been issued it. And you're standing there, your arms folded, miserable as fuck because rain's going down your back. And you're yelling at them and they're just like, fuck that guy. Meanwhile, like there's another guy, another drill sergeant that's low crawling with them in the mud, having a blast. So I saw that happen to drill sergeants. And I look at it and it's like, this is the thing about leadership and this thing about life. No one cares what you've done in the past. Is about what you're doing right now. So you could have been fucking Medal of Honor winner in Ranger Battalion as a squad leader. If you're a shitty sergeant major in the 82nd right now, you know what you are? You're just a shitty sergeant major, man. Like no one cares that you're a badass, that you killed a bunch of fucking dudes.
Right.
And like you have to always pursue that. And I think with the veterans, that's what I want to showcase is like, hey man, just because it's over, like you're not in the military anymore or you retired from whatever, it doesn't mean that you can't set high goals for yourself and chase those goals. It doesn't always have to be physical. Could be owning a business, could be getting a degree, could be, like my brother, he's got a master's degree. My littlest brother, he was in the Army, he got a master's degree now. He's an X-ray tech and he's just like crushing, and I don't even know what his official title is, but it's like, that's what makes him happy. He's pursuing that, like
sure.
So it's like
you got to find almost another accomplishment, right?
Absolutely.
Or a sense of self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like that's what I was trying to kind of, I guess like my social media, if you will, or like just when I talk to people. And I think a lot of times it's easy to portray this sad veteran shit where it's like, oh, I'm a sad veteran. Like, and it's like, fuck that, dude. Like, let's go kill an elk. Like, I don't have any legs. All right, I'll fucking pack you out, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's something to be said for the people who are constantly chasing adventures in life, and you see those people are successful in life.
I agree.
And it doesn't necessarily always go into a money or a monetary thing. Like if you want to live in a cabin in the woods or you want to live in Steamboat and just ski and be a bum and just like work for the forestry and put out fires in the summertime and ski all winter.
As long as you treat people right, you're not a piece of shit. You're not a bum, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's just what I try to showcase. And the other thing that I think a lot of people forget is that the nutrition, the active lifestyle, like all those things can send you down depression rabbit holes.
Sure.
But I also think with the special operations guys, it's like, I think you're going 100 miles an hour all the time. And war is easy, man. Like you hear guys talk about it all the time on anytime they're talking. And sometimes you see like guys will light up and their conversation will change when they start telling stories and how they felt when they're with their boys, like deploying to Afghanistan. They went to this place, they did that, and they had this so much love and like admiration for everyone around them. And then where does it go? So it's like
I know this is kind of cliche, but it's like you got to find a tribe again, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like you have these guys. And this is my opinion here. This is not science or anything fact-based, but everyone goes through a selection process, whether that's, you're go to Ranger Battalion, you go to Buds, you go to Special Forces selection, whatever it is. There's a selection process to weed out mentally, it's more mental than it's physical. It's shit that people do every day. You just do it day in and day out, and you do a lot of rigorous stuff mentally. Physically, they challenge you. No sleep, no food, all that kind of crap. So it weeds out a lot of the guys who are not mentally tough. I don't think that a lot of the guys that commit suicide aren't mentally tough. I think war is easy. Every day's Monday. Every day's a good day to die, and it's easy to do that. It's easy to wake up, go to the gym, crush food, work out again, prep for a mission, go on an op, kill bad dudes, come back. Like, that's easy. Every day's Monday. When you get back, now your fucking wife's in your ass about doing this. Now this. Right. Now you got to pay bills. Like, it's all these other factors, and you miss that of like, I just want to go back. And then you throw in the trauma of your buddies, of children. You know, I think that's a big one that a lot of people overlook. It's kids.
Yeah.
You know, and you will see a lot of because it's war, man. It's fucking horrible. You know, and the atrocities that you see, the things that happen. You know, a lot of people don't understand. You know, like, we're trying to push a Western world on people that don't want it. The grooming of boys and the pedophilia. There's just a lot of things that are very easy to get you to go down this like path of hate. So when you're there, it's easy to thrive off of. Like, sure. I said, every day's Monday. When you get back, these are all the things. So I think those things compile on guys. And guys I know that have committed suicide, they were guys you never would think of ever commit suicide. You're like that. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
normally the whistleblowers are the ones that just want attention. I mean, in my past experience and just with friends, and then people that I know it's happened to firsthand, it totally blows you off guard. Like, you could talk to him on the phone the day before, like, and never even know.
Yeah. So that's like full circle going back into fundraiser stuff. It's like, I want to give back. I want to pay it forward to, if I'm in such a good headspace right now and I'm feeling awesome, it might not always be there. I might hit a wall when I'm 50.
Look awesome, man. Dude. Congratulations on that beard, man. Mustache.
Thanks, man. So it's like, I just want to make sure that, like, I'm paying it forward and guys have an opportunity to go do something that may change their life. So if that's hyperbaric chamber, you know, Special Forces Association or the Green Bay Foundation or whatever, they're paying for these things for guys to go to. Heroes for Horses, you know, guys are going to Montana. They're spending a whole month in this system. So, I mean, those are the type of things that change people's lives. And I think that for me, I just want to pay it forward and to try to showcase some of that. So, you know, that's just where I'm at.
That's super rad, man. I really appreciate you doing that. And
man,
I think anybody deserves that. And I think that, you know, if you're listening to this thing right now and you need some help and you're a veteran or not, you should just reach out to somebody. Like,
for sure.
If you don't have friends, it's pretty easy to find friends these days. You know what I mean? Like, just, you know, reach out to somebody.
Maybe not true friends, but I definitely think
you can find your clique, though. I think that is one good thing about social media. And try not to follow somebody that's fake, obviously, but you can find people that inspire you, right? The Jockos of the world,
for sure.
The Andy Arabitos, you know.
Yeah, there's thanks, man.
Dude,
there's that's the thing I think that for me about social media. It's like, so I've had social media a year now. And I see where you can go down a rabbit hole and the things we first started talking about, you know, where it's like you're in an echo chamber, you're only listening to ideas that support your own ideas.
Yeah.
And it continuously pushes you farther and farther and farther away from reality or from any kind of open discussion. So I think it's very easy for people to think social media is negative, but if you stay positive and you only deal with positive interactions. So a couple stories for me with Instagram. It's like, one of my favorite athletes, he's so gnarly. Matt Chan, he's a firefighter here in Denver.
Super rad, dude. I follow him too, man. He's a stud.
Not only is he a stud, I love dudes who like crushing for the old dudes. You know, like, I just turned 40 in October, and I think Matt's like 43 or 44, or he's getting that. Yeah. He's around there. But I've always really liked him as a CrossFit athlete, and even before I had social media, I'd watch the games and YouTube and just follow him in general. But I liked it because he's a real person. Like he doesn't like own a CrossFit gym and that's all he does is fucking work out, eat steroids and fucking whatever. It's like, no, the dude's a firefighter. He has like,
he's got a full-time
got a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like, and he's crushing. He's a hunter. He's an avid outdoorsman. He's just a normal person. So anyway, and he just won the Titan Games and he's got, a gajillion followers or whatever.
Yeah.
And, here's little old me with like 1,100 followers. I'm like, he was on his story. He was like, hey, does anybody know? And he was looking at GMU, like I think it was 213, and he was like, anybody know anything about this? So I kind of sent him a message, and I was actually guiding out by Steamboat, up by Flat Tops and some other areas. I was working for Colorado Outfitters at the time. So I was kind of like, and this is just every now and then I was doing it for fun, like, yeah, I like my shit is, I like packing. That's my jam. So I basically hit me up, say, hey, do you want to pack this trip or pack hunters in or whatever? So I know where a lot of animals are and things like that. And I messaged him and told him, I was like, hey, I don't know, that that spot's burnt out. And anybody who hunted in Colorado in 2020, I backtrack a little bit. It's basically, if you've never hunted where wolves are, the elk here acted like they were with wolves. So what happened with COVID is everybody went to the backcountry. They were getting pressured all spring, all summer by so many people. They were quiet. They weren't bugling. And that's what you see when you're up in Wyoming or Montana in areas where there's a heavy wolf population. They're just quiet. They don't make any noise during the rut. So it was a pretty low success rate this year.
I struck out.
Yeah, a lot of dudes, a lot of guys I know that are really good hunters that usually can do well in public land. Nothing. Some guys didn't even see any animals.
Yeah,
and they were so high up, they were so far out. And just funny stuff. Like I'd be on a horse, 15 miles back, and there's dudes, and I'm like, why are you back here? If you shoot something, what do you take?
You got to pack it out.
Well, yeah, but like everything's in it. This is 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And then we had that snowstorm that hit.
Yeah,
like
that was
in
gnarly.
September. So it went from like 85 degrees one day. The next day it was dropped below freezing. Ice storm crushes everything. So it changed this behavior pattern of them, whatever. So just kind of give some story on that. So then Matt Chan, I'm like, hey, I don't know about this, but I know where elk are in Unit 3. I'll take you if you want to roll. And he's like, text me. So me and him couple text conversations. I take Matt Chan hunting off fucking Instagram. So it's like I just look at those type of interactions. We're not like great homies by any chance, but we text back and forth. And he's actually training for the Grand Traverse. He's doing a firefighter fundraiser for the GT. No way. Yeah.
Who was training with you today?
No, he wasn't. But I mean, just interactions like that. Just opportunities for work opportunities or to
it's helped me find that's how you and I found each other as far as the podcast.
Yeah,
so
and that's what I think. I think
positive stuff.
I think there's definitely an easy way to have like positive light in it.
Yeah,
and those are just my stories, but it's like I know people who have the same types of positive interactions. My wife is definitely one of them as well. So I think it's what you make of it.
Sure.
And if you're willing to seek out and only look at positive interactions, the other thing I think with some of the algorithms and the way things work is be open to seeing what other people are talking about, and the way we were kind of talking about when I moved to Las Vegas and kind of more of a melting pot, I went from being the only kid who wasn't white to being the only kid who was, quote unquote white or didn't speak Spanish. I look like a Mexican kid, but I don't speak Spanish. So like my homies were the black dudes like took me in, and I look at like that, and then my career in the Army and the thing I loved about the military so much, and I still love it to this day, is you're forcing people from all walks of life to live together, to be brothers, to accomplish a common goal. And the stereotypes that people say exist and the racism and this and that, I'm like, you know what? I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that I haven't seen it, witnessed it. I have both my sons are black. They're mixed. I've seen it. I've been a part of some of that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying, there's no racism or anything like that. But that's the coolest thing about the Army. It's just like all walks of life. You have dudes that would never be friends or best friends. You have a white kid from Alabama that like hunts gators and shit like that.
Right.
And he's forced to be a roommate to a black kid from Brooklyn who Wu-Tang Clan, like everything you can think of when you think of like some black kid from Brooklyn who grew up in the 90s, like, and some kid who grew up in the 90s from Alabama. Now they're roommates. Some people would think that doesn't work. Why doesn't it? So now they're best friends. Now they're like, they play Call of Duty. Now they have like one, this white kid from Alabama is godfather to this guy's kids now. Like that's the Army I know. And I want to promote that more than I want to promote the other side of it. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
And the world needs that so much right now, I think.
Yeah. I think we're too focused on the negative side of it. And then the other thing with walks of life, it's like, as a drill sergeant, this is what I saw the most, was like, if you're a white guy from Alabama and let's say you're a white guy from Chicago, that doesn't mean because you're both white, you have something in common. Like those dudes, they're so completely opposite, and in the weirdest ways, like not even stereotypical ways that you would think. If I described you a white kid from Alabama, you're probably thinking some country ass dude who's got a rebel flag and a fucking big truck, and the kid from Chicago is some fucking like, baseball playing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No, it's in ways that those stereotypes don't even match. I'm talking about a white kid from Alabama who's raised by like in a black neighborhood who likes rap and is like, like those are the kind of things that I think the Army showcases that most people wouldn't even associate with, like, so I think that's just was really cool for me. That experience in the Army, and even, through special forces, like carrying that forward, seeing it in the teams, the same thing, and
do you get kind of sort of that same sense from competing in some of the stuff or being an outfitter and taking, like, I know it's not on the same level, but
I don't know. I would say like, there's another kind of rabbit hole. I would say skiing is a hard one. Skiing's like golf. Skiing is like the widest sport there is,
Yeah.
It's like, skiing to me, especially with social media, is just like rich white people are virtue signaling.
But I'm saying, forget race and all that stuff, right? Outside of race, it's more about who you're with.
Oh, for sure.
Who you're training
100%,
with, and like
100%.
I definitely, we're burning through the time here, and I want to talk about your race a little bit, and I don't want to cut you short either. But
I'm gonna take off the sweatshirt.
Yeah, man, no worries.
I'm burning up.
I can turn down the air a little bit too, man.
Good.
But yeah, sorry, back to the ski race.
No
I mean,
worries.
obviously, I don't know much about Grand Traverse other than what you've told me so far, and I'm super curious to find out about it. What's the course like? Is it roped out, or is it like,
No.
do you have to navigate yourself, or
there's not a ton of nav. Like, you do have to carry a map and a compass. There could be some like whiteout conditions or spots that could get a little shady. For the most part, they'll break in a skin track. And you start on Crested Butte, so you're starting on like Groomers, resort proper. You do a couple miles on the resort, and then you ski out the resort. And basically, the people who put the race together, all the safety mitigations, like the ski patrollers and those guys that are out there, they break the skin track for you all the way up to Star Pass. They'll cut the cornice on Star Pass. And then when you get down Star Pass, same thing until you get about 15 miles outside of Aspen. It's kind of a snowmobile track. So the race originally was the old mail route that they delivered mail from Aspen to Crested Butte. Oh, really? So that's the old route. So it's in the summer, it's just a trail, So you're basically kind of following like a snow-packed trail. There are like bamboo sticks with chem lights on them every now and then. Mm-hmm. But if the wind's bad, there's whiteout, especially above the alpine, above the tree line. There's not a lot to go off of.
And you said it was 40 miles, roughly?
It's 40 miles, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's your start time? Do you guys start
so
before dark?
No, you start at midnight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's when the avalanche conditions are the safest because it's the coldest. That snow's nice and firm. So you get rolling at midnight, and then you have a cutoff. You have checkpoints. So if you don't make it at a certain time, you just turn around and go back. So it sucks because like you could do 20 miles and have to turn around and go back. You still do 40 miles, but you just don't finish the race.
Wow.
So yeah, there's
That's pretty wild.
no like helping. There's no like. It's not like, oh yeah, go down to the road. There's a bus, or there's none of that. It's like you're in the middle, like
you got to get.
You are in the middle of the wilderness,
Yeah.
between Crested Butte and Aspen, and there's nothing in between. Like you're skiing past the bells. Like I mean, it's in the wilderness,
And this is where I was kind of going when we were talking about team aspect and being around guys and that sort of thing. Do you have a support team of any? At any point, do you have a partner that you're doing it with?
You do it. It's a two-person event. I'm doing it with this year one of my friends. Her name's Erin Bartels. She actually lives in Breckenridge. She's grew up skiing. She's a gnarly like CrossFit athlete. This is her first like endurance event. So she's super strong. I think she's in her own head a little bit about how far it is or things like that, but I have all the confidence in her. She's a great skier. She's very capable. She's just a freak athlete in general anyways. So that'll help me out, and for, it's kind of funny too. It's like, I didn't learn that a ski till I was 36. So like I didn't ski in Montana.
I thought it might have been something you did while you were. Were you in 10th group at all?
I was.
Oh, okay.
So when I first came in to Special Forces, right after being a drill sergeant, I super fast. I went to Sapper School while I was a drill sergeant. This is all in the same year, 2009. So to September 2009, I went to Sapper School. Graduated Sapper School. I went to Ranger School. Right after Ranger School, I went to Special Forces selection, and then I'm starting the Q course by November 2010. So in 1 year, I was like full circle, like just changed my whole career path, doing all that. I graduated the Q course, and then I went to 3rd Special Forces Group, and I spent, I did half and half. So I did like 5 years in 3rd Special Forces Group, and then 5 years in, almost 5 years in 10th Special Forces Group. So I went from Afghanistan, Iraq centric to 10th group, and this was right about the time they were switching AO. So 3rd group was in charge of Afghanistan, 10th group was in charge of Africa. Well, they were trading that, so 10th group would be in charge of all of Europe and all of the stands, and then 3rd group would be in charge of all of Africa. So I'm thinking like, fuck yeah, I'm going back to Afghanistan, And I sit down with the group sergeant major, and he's like, yeah, you can't be a one-trick pony. He's like, you speak Russian? I'm like, yeah, I speak Russian. He's like, okay, well, you're going to 3rd Battalion, which is basically in charge of counter-Russian aggression in Europe. I've never been on what they call a JSET, which is like these training missions. I've only gone to combat. So I'm like, I don't want to do this shit. Like, what the hell? I was so pissed. Yeah. But fast forward to, like, basically, it's like I go straight to a mountain team. I learn how to ski, start doing mountaineering. It really got me back in touch with the mountains. It was definitely a blessing to be around dudes who were just kind of that junkie of like, that was our mission.
Was that here in Colorado?
In Colorado, yeah.
Awesome.
Down in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
So just training all over Colorado, training in Alaska.
Is that what brought you to Colorado? And
yes, it did.
Yeah,
it did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then before I retired, I was a team sergeant of a mountain team that was in charge of counter-Russian aggression above the Arctic Circle. So all of our deployments were to Sweden, Finland, and Norway. Oh, shit. So I've gone to like Swedish, like
so you froze your ass off.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have some frostbite injuries for sure.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Some of that medication I was talking about is from frostbite, like nerve damage stuff. But yeah, but gnarly. Like to.
Luckily, I've never experienced that I know of. So
yeah. Yeah. So it's like I look at that it was just a blessing to be able to do that. But it's kind of funny because people are like, I've been skiing like 4 years, almost 5 years now, and people are like, you do the Grand Traverse and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, it's so I just look at that as like I was saying before, where special operations guys are like always the forefront, always the leaders. Like, seeing guys like a 30-year-old man who's been good at everything all his life. He's a fucking Green Beret and he doesn't know how to ski, and to teach him how to ski. Right. It's frustrating, but it's also awesome. And then it's one of those things where like people who grew up in Colorado have been skiing, they'll see that guy and they'll be like, oh, he just learned how to ski. Let's say it's Saturday, It's like, yeah, and we're out Crested Butte training. And like, how long you guys been skiing? It's like, oh, this is his 5th day. He learned his first day was on Monday. And people are like, what? No way. Because like, dudes are just so athletic, like I think it really speaks for, how uncommon, to toot the horn of my brothers, of the special operations community, of just how awesome those dudes are, man. Like I've been like awestruck so many times at just these sick dudes, like how good they are at
I've been fortunate. We talked about it before the podcast. Like somehow I've kind of no military background by me by any means, but just the industry I fell into, a lot of those guys did personal protection and stuff like that. And then I don't know, for some reason I'm just gravitated towards those sort of people. I've ran into them outside of that industry too,
Nice.
So, but yeah, man. So as far as training for that race, what are you guys doing, like, as far as training leading up to it? What's the workup and then recovery?
So the train up, I also like coach, and that's one of my things I like to program and to coach. So the train up is more just like off of my experience from, long range reconnaissance background from 3rd group, and that's basically what I did in above the Arctic Circle. So knowing what it takes, and then also doing the race before, just putting on miles. It's harder for me because I don't live in, Summit County or Crested Butte or somewhere like that. I have to, drive 2 hours to access snow. So a lot of running, cycling, things like that. My recovery is this like CBD, marijuana, stretching. Like I just
we
like
dove into that. We have Pure Spectrum as a sponsor.
Nice.
I know you're sponsored by Uncannon.
Yeah, Uncannon.
Correct?
Yeah,
both great companies.
Yeah, for sure.
But that was one thing that you were hitting on, and we didn't really go down this path, and I just want to touch on it real briefly because I think it's super important.
Absolutely.
You said that you had like over 20 medications prescribed to you, and you don't take any of them.
Nope.
So is CBD helping you fill that void a little bit, or do you think that helps with your recovery?
For sure. I think when I first started taking CBD, it's like a slow process. So a lot of times people were used to that, like, give me a pill, or you take, like, I always use like pre-workout as an example. Americans are on the pre-workout model. I want to drink something right now. I want my neck to be tingly, and I want to be able to like freak out and throw weights across the gym. That's what I want, an immediate reaction to what I'm taking. Whereas like the rest of the world is on a 100-year plan. They're like, we don't think that way. So, and that ties into everything you want to apply it to: politics, this, that, whatever, right? Well, the CBD is like that. It's like you start taking it, and I was sleeping on the floor 5 to 6 nights a week. Like I didn't sleep in my bed. Like slowly, like a month later, I would say after like the first 2 weeks, I could feel like a recovery in my body. It was almost like cheating. I feel like if you're an athlete, you're not taking CBD, you're just dumb. Like you're stupid. It's the best thing you take for recovery. Even if you don't need it for sleep, you feel amazing.
Even if you're not an athlete, man, it helps.
It does. It's just, the recovery is insane. So it's like slowly pain management and other issues I had started to kind of slowly go away, to the point where it was like, I don't need certain, Medicaid. I didn't need to take pain meds. For sleep, the cure behind sleep for me was marijuana. I love edibles. I love the body high. I think that in Colorado, it's a different conversation. So people who are listening to live in other states, they're like, oh, marijuana. And
devil's lettuce, right?
It's like, dude, you know how many, especially if you come to Denver, it's like CEOs get baked every night. Like, it's not what people think it is. But when you look at alcohol, it's like, oh, alcohol is acceptable, but marijuana isn't. But
which is crazy,
right?
Yeah.
But it's like, if you use it responsibly, and I use it, I do recreationally smoke sometimes or whatever, but for the most part, I use it like a supplement. Kids go to bed, I eat an edible. By the time I'm ready for bed, I'm feeling good, nice and chill, ready to go to sleep. So when you understand different strains,
and you're not waking up groggy like you would from like a sleeping pill, like an Ambien or something like that, right? And that shit knocks me out for 3 or 4 days.
Oh, dude. Yeah. And the thing about, so with medication, my mother, she passed away 2 years ago, and it was from, she had rheumatoid arthritis when she was in her 30s, like mid 30s. if you see those commercials for like Humira or whatever, they have all these crazy side effects.
All those commercials are insane.
It's so bad. So anyway, it was like my mom, when she ultimately passed away, it was like she had every autoimmune disorder you could think of, like Guillain-Barré, lupus, all these issues.
Oh, man.
And it was from medications. So medication to me is like the absolute last resort. So I look at marijuana and CBD as my medication. So I was having like crazy headaches all the time, not sleeping, all these different issues. And now I'm to the point where it's like, it's not a sales pitch. It's not someone saying like, oh yeah, use Uncanna because they give me free shit and they support me. No, it's like it changed my life. Like I'm so happy to represent that brand or even tell people about it. And it doesn't even have to be that brand. It's just like, hey, this is what changed my life. Like, don't take all these pills. If you want to chase ayahuasca treatments or you want to, go, use a hallucinogen or go get ketamine treatments or whatever. Like, I'm all for those things because anything that you can do to not put drugs in your system.
It's almost like those prescriptions and pharmaceutical drugs specifically just kind of, it's like putting a Band-Aid over the problem. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just kind of masks it, right? It just makes you
makes it worse.
Get by. Yeah.
It makes it worse. And and back to the veteran suicide stuff, it changes the chemical makeup of your brain. So like when you're like, I didn't know, how did that dude kill himself? You're like, his brain was broken. He wasn't thinking rationally. Like you're writing it out on paper, like wife and kids, blah, blah, war hero. You're thinking rationally. That person is not thinking rationally. They're scarred from emotional scars and they're trying to fix those scars, or maybe he's in pain and all that pain management medicine changed the chemical makeup of their brain. So that's just where I'm just such a big advocate for anything that's natural, like not doing anything to put chemicals in your body, if you will.
Yeah. And I really had no idea. I mean, when I first started taking CBD and Pure Spectrum specifically is when they kind of sponsored the podcast and I could afford it, right? Because it's not cheap, right?
No, it's not.
But then it almost like I take it like it's almost like a multivitamin. Yep. And the difference when I don't, like I see my sleep, it changes a lot, man. And it's helped me a lot too, just to kind of take that edge off. Not that I'm an anxious guy or stressed out all the time. Yeah. But it's just enough that I do notice it. It's like, oh shit, I didn't take CBD the last couple of days. Or,
it's like that. I always say it's like the feeling like you feel like you're gonna get in trouble for something. You're like, did I fuck something up? Like,
and there's a lot of misconception with it too for people that don't know, that are listening to this and maybe thinking about trying it and maybe they're on the fence. Like Pure Spectrum is a THC free product,
right?
So it's not going to give you that euphoric body high or
none of it does.
Like even you don't even notice until like a month goes by and you're like, oh shit, my elbow works now. It doesn't hurt at jiu-jitsu anymore.
Exactly.
It's like,
that's what I'm saying. It's like it just has this like slow, but also, with that, it's like it can be snake oil because there's like the 7-Eleven ones. And
sure.
It's like, oh, I'll buy 40 milligrams for $30. And you're like, that's a serving
there's
a day.
So
that's
many
a 1 day serving.
Out there,
like 30. Like it's like I'm taking 30 milligrams in the morning, 30 milligrams at night, 60 milligrams a day. That's like what you want to be taking. If you're not taking that, you're going to be like, oh, it doesn't work. It's like, no shit, it doesn't work. You're taking 10 milligrams a day. It's like, it's not going to do anything for you.
Do your homework on it. And that's one thing about some of the more reputable companies is they'll have some of that information.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If you don't go to no shady like 7-Eleven one. You're like, what? Like,
I've always said it's that gas station grade bullshit. Just don't even bother with it, man.
No, for sure.
So yeah, man. So we talked about, your military background, work, what you're doing now as far as training, recovery. We've talked about a lot of serious shit, man.
Yeah.
What do you do outside of that just to relax, have fun?
Oh, man. I'm just blessed, man. I got an awesome family. My wife is
being a dad.
Yeah, my wife is dope. So I have 2 older kids. My daughter's 21 and my son's 16, and then I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old at the house. So, airborne ranger, life of sex and danger. My wife's an open book, but like I fucked up a lot, but like it doesn't mean that like, and I feel bad. There was a time in my life where.
I'm sorry to laugh, but that was kind of a punchline right there. It caught me off guard.
It's like I spent years of my life being, I would say, like that saying my mom said, every day is a good day to die. And I think guys like me on their team because I knew I wasn't trying to die. I was just, in my opinion, the way I can make my family happy, and I had been such a shitty dad, like I was always gone. So in my opinion, it was like, how do I make my kids proud? Was for me to like die in combat, was for me to do the ultimate sacrifice. So I would always put myself in positions that like maybe, and I'm not saying most guys wouldn't, like, I mean, dudes are warriors, man. Like, so, but I think there were some guys on my team, you know, I would have guys be like, I'm not going with that motherfucker. Like, I want to be on fucking main effort with Jeremiah, you know, because they know, like, I'm going to fucking get after it. But at the same time, it feels good when they, like, know that, you know, and that's how I took it. Maybe they weren't. Maybe, like, that dude's a fucking idiot. But I just was kind of living my life, like, where I was thought that way, you know, like, how do I make my kids proud? So, and then I slowly realized that, like, you know, that's not the answer. You know, like, it's being a dad, being there for them. That's the best thing I can do. So for me right now, it's like, post-retirement, you know, yes, I lost a lot with my older kids. There's a lot of relationship building and things that I have to live with, and me being just gone in general. The Army wasn't just a sacrifice that I made. It wasn't that I was a Green Beret. It wasn't that I did all these things. My family did those things. Like, my entire family did those things. So now I just want to be I just want to be there with my kids. I just want to share those moments with the younger kids and try to make up for lost time and enjoy the time I didn't have with my older kids with my younger kids now. So for me, it's just like trying to share that, you know, just getting out with my kids, just having fun, you know, whether it's just riding bikes or skiing. My kids love to ski. They love being outside, you know, horses, whatever. Like they love it, man.
That's rad. Jeremiah, man, it's really awesome what you do, you know, giving back to veterans, spending time with your family, just being a stand-up dude. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming in here.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And talking to us. And first and foremost, thank you for your service, too, man.
Thank you, man.
I'm a big proponent of that here at the Mountainside, and I think everybody should be. You know, let's talk, where can people follow you during this race? When is it happening? And is there a way for people to watch or track you on a GPS or something?
Yeah, so I'll put the tracking links on the link in my bio on my Instagram. The race is the 28th of March, starts at midnight. There's some like staggered starts in there. But yes, you can follow on the GPS, so you have to wear a spot device and they can track you the whole time. There's no spectators or anything this year with COVID. And then same thing, link in my bio for, I have a t-shirt that I designed with True Patriot, and they're donating all the money from that t-shirt to Heroes and Horses. So you can just buy a t-shirt.
That's how you can help support.
So you can support there if you just want a tangible item, a t-shirt, or you can actually donate on the donation link to Heroes and Horses.
Awesome. And that link is in your Instagram, which
it's in my bio. Jeremiah Blackbeard.
Okay, cool. We're also going to put a link to that. Awesome. We'll put a link to both the website.
Heck yeah.
And we'll also put a link to your Instagram in the bio and whatever other websites you want to. Heroes and Horses we can add to.
For sure.
We can add a bunch.
And I tell everybody, like, check out Heroes and Horses. There's some super rad videos on their Instagram with, you know, testimonials from guys, you know, a year later, 2 years later after the fact, after they went through the program. So,
I've been following them for a while, actually, before you and I even met. So cool organization. Yeah, know what they do.
Yeah, Micah Fink and Chris, they're killing it, man. They're awesome. Yeah.
Good dudes. Hey, man, I really appreciate you. Real quick, one more time. I don't know if you have a website, but go ahead and drop your Instagram handle again. Websites.
Yeah, no websites. Like I'm not famous yet. You know.
You should have your own, man. It's easy to build one these days.
Someone told me my beard should have its own Instagram. But yeah, so Jeremiah_Blackbeard is my Instagram. I don't have Facebook or anything like that. That's the only social platform I use.
You're smart, man. Doing it right.
Keep it simple. Pictures. You know.
Well, I appreciate your time, and we're wishing you the best of luck.
Yeah,
we're going to be tracking
much,
you, dude. Maybe we can get you in here after the race at some point.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And definitely in the future, man.
I do want to give a disclaimer to everybody. Like, don't expect me to win this thing or do any. This is you know, I'm definitely gonna get my ass kicked by all the pros out there. But maybe one day I'll be one of the sponsored racers.
We'll try for you, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, no, cheers to you, man. Thank you. And thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Jeremy, how we doing back there?
All good, dude.
All right. I didn't even talk to Jeremy the whole time.
You didn't need to.
Yeah. Awesome.